I'm excited to introduce a group that I had the pleasure of introducing in a virtual conference. It is hard to believe that we are here in person, live, doing this again, back in September. So I'd love to introduce Marie and Martin from CentralNic to join us here on the stage. They're going to be doing an interview from the inside about how the pros do migration. So enjoy.
Hello. Nice to see everybody in person, and thanks for the introduction. Really excited to be here today. Martin, thanks for joining me.
Many thanks for being here. Finally seeing you again. Happy to be here.
On the topic of domain migrations, Martin and I can get carried away, and we could keep you here for the rest of the conference, but we are not going to do that. So I've got some notes to make sure we stay on track, and I've got some questions I've put together for Martin on the topic of domain migrations. So if you're joining us in this room today, thanks for taking the time out to come here. You may have domains already at different registrars looking to consolidate. For Martin and I, we both come to CentralNic as part of the reseller division from different companies. So ourselves, we know the challenges of having domains at different partners, through acquisition as well, growing, and then wanting to consolidate a portfolio from there. If you're not familiar with CentralNic, so large organization based out of England. We have different divisions, so registry, corporate domain management, reseller, retail brands, so whole spectrum, and online marketing companies as well. But today we'll stay focused on migrations and mostly looking at RRPproxy, which is our main platform we do migrations to. Anything you want to jump in with at the top? I'm going to go through some pain points.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about why migrations are important these days, and what we really would like to talk about with you today, and what we would like to present to you. Marie, guide me, please. Okay, so the top 4 things that we hear from people on their pain points, and we encourage you to come talk to us at our booth after if you have additional ones to talk about, but not having experience having done them before, and we know it's a very overwhelming topic to even start wrapping your head around. Deciding who to partner with and what things to be asking them as you partner. Not wanting to disrupt your own customers, and that's a big one. We'll come back to that during this time as well. And then not really sure what to expect with the entire process. So based on those, I'm going to dive in and ask you some tough questions. Go for it.
Okay. So when we're talking about migrations, what aren't we talking about, and what are we talking about?
Okay. So what we are not talking about now is transfers as such, not automatic transfers and so on. We do have platforms that support full automatic domain handling, including automatic transfers, whether it's natively over our APIs or over WHMCS plugins. We already have this. This is common. This is nothing new. We talk about the whole picture, the entire suite. If you are a company, a group of companies managing hundreds of thousands of domains and would like to at some point consolidate because you did make some acquisitions in the past, or you grew, you evolved, and in the past registered your domains sometimes here, sometimes there, different divisions of your company group, for example, or simply some subsidiaries. And we're talking about how to migrate everything together, bringing everything together to have one central management repository, so to say, instead of having it cluttered everywhere. This is basically what we would like to talk about right now. Okay, so we're talking on the topic of migrations. Where do we start? So what does step 1 look like? Someone calls our team, wants to get started. What's the pickup point? The pickup point, yeah, typically customers or interested parties, they reach out to us and they have a certain goal. Coming with this goal, they have certain requirements. They would like to migrate their portfolios, and it's looking completely different. We are talking about small portfolios or large portfolios. The first thing is, after signing the mutual NDA, which is a common thing, we need to sit together and look at what is your inventory. How is it looking like? What are your plans? We closely look into it. We look into every single portfolio that you have amongst there and work out an entire plan, including a lot of recommendations and detail work for you to start with a migration process. This is the first step. looking at what we have here. At this moment, nothing is really happening. It is basically just looking at it, getting the lay of the land, and go on from there.
Okay, so take inventory, take stock, how many domains, which TLDs, if there's any particular order that the customer would want to do that.
Exactly. It is always a matter of what you're looking at. So for example, we have huge or small companies that would like to migrate. Sometimes it's easy because you have one TLD, it's basically one domain owner. This is very easy, but then imagine you have 100,000 customers or 1 million, and each of them is managing a single domain. How are we approaching this? We're not talking about one TLD, typically it's dozens or even 100 TLDs, not only GTLDs, a lot of CCTLDs. We need to look into every single of them, and of course provide you with a suitable plan, suitable recommendations about how to move forward properly, and so we can together fulfill your requirements and your ideas.
Cool. Okay, and so that kind of brings me to my next one as well. So we take the overall inventory, like lots of discussion, making time to get to know the team as well at the partner, and then coming back with a recommendation and some options laid out for people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And of course, this is a constant information flow. We are in very, very close contact with our customers. As we talk, we are doing this more or less on a daily basis. We have several teams actually working on this. It depends a little bit on where you look precisely, but we do have one migration team, and that is, of course, performing those migrations every day. As we talk at the moment, we are migrating at the moment for our customers. And this is coming in different flavors, of course. So no project is like the other. So you cannot generalize here.
Mm-hmm. That's actually something, yeah, with the migration team itself, that's something that's come to be because there's been so many demands from customers.
Correct.
We now have a dedicated team that's all they do is work on projects.
Correct. This is actually coming a little bit from experiences from the past, internal requirements, because, well, today's we are looking at acquisitions a lot. I mean, this is the current IT space, in particular in the domain registrar space. There's a lot of consolidation going on. Companies buy other companies. We are doing the same with CentralNic. And at some point, there's the need, okay, now we need to consolidate everything. And so this is why we started, okay, let's form an entire team around this instead of having isolated solutions here, a singular project there, and so on. Let's have an entire team, gather all the experience and the knowledge that we already have, and, well, basically create an entire suite of services around it. We tried to make like a product out of it. It's a bit hard because a product is something you typically can touch, even if it's a virtual product like a domain, for example. But if you're talking about a migration for a customer managing 100,000 domains or even more, across different registrar entities or across different TLDs, then suddenly you don't have like a singular product in your hand. You need to have a complete suite of services, and this is actually what we aim for. Provide a solution for any possible scenario that you may have, and this is actually coming from our customers and from interested parties. Whatever you look at, it looks always different. It always has a different flavor. You have seen parts of it before. Some of you guys that are working in particular in the domain space, you already did migrations in large scales, but you already realized it's always different. And this is where we can also internally consolidate our knowledge, our experience, to provide a proper service to our own customers. And this is what we do. Pretty much successful on a daily basis. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so inventory, or NDAs.
NDAs.
Lots of time of building that relationship as well. So the folks that will be talking to each other between the different, like between our team and the partner that we're with, making sure that those teams are really well connected. So there's like key communications going on.
Exactly.
Okay, so NDA, inventory, make a plan. We present a plan, a recommendation plus options, and then sit down and really spend time with the team going through and making sure our partner's comfortable with that plan.
Exactly. Without approval of our customers, that means you. Without your approval, we are not starting anything. And typically, it's the pain points that we need to take most care of. It is, just like you said in the beginning, the customers of our clients. This is the most important thing. Those are to be treated with utmost care. We need to be very, very careful and try to reduce any impact on them when it comes to such migrations. I don't know if any one of you ever transferred a domain on your own, but typically there's a lot of emails going back and forth. And now imagine your provider is doing this. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of emails going back and forth. This is a huge customer impact, and we do know how this is feeling, and we also can provide recommendations, give guidance, and of course offer a lot of help to reduce this impact, to make sure the customer experience here is still excellent, even if you're going through a migration. And this is actually this is the grain of salt that we bring in here, because this is what we did in the past, very successful with our customers. This is what we are doing right now at the moment with our existing customers. And this is basically the most important thing.
Yeah, end user impact, or reducing it,
Exactly.
making it as easy for them as possible.
Yeah.
Or their experience or even knowledge of it.
Correct. The end user impact is typically the pain point number one if you're coming to migrations. Yeah, and this is what we take most care of.
So I'm a partner. I've gone through these first few steps with you. I come to a conclusion of I like this recommendation. I'm going to take these options that you've recommended, and I say, okay, great, let's go ahead, let's move forward.
Okay, the
What
next
happens?
step is, so typically, we're not starting on a Friday. Yeah, like everybody of you knows, on a Friday you don't start big projects or deploy things. We like starting on Tuesdays, actually, because after the weekend, Monday is still wrapping up the weekend, and on Tuesdays we start with such migrations. This is the typical dates. Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursdays is when most migration work is happening on our side. Of course, there are exceptions always, but this is what we always recommend. Start on a Tuesday, continue on a Wednesday and on Thursday. On Friday, let's wrap up. On Monday, just wrapping up your own weekend normally, and then continue the next week. Of course, if you have any other plans, continue like that. Of course, we can make exceptions everywhere. It's up to our customers. As we said, without approval, we're not commencing anything.
Right. Okay. And then pacing of timing, like what am I say yes, let's go ahead. Am I done in a week? Is it a year? What does my experience look like?
Yeah, it depends on the project. It depends on the project. It depends on how fast you would like to have it and how you would like to perform it. You could transfer as fast as possible. This means you have a lot of impact, of course. Or you say, okay, we need to have a lower impact and you need to take it a little bit slower. What is always interesting to know that it doesn't really depend on the volume of domains. So we did in the past, for one particular customer, we were moving more than 1 million domains within 1 week. And this was extremely fast, but in this scenario, it was possible. With other customers, similar size, it's a little bit less than 1 million domains, but we are working on this already since a few months, because this is a bit more complex, this project. It is not easy to answer how much time we will need for this, but you can easily say that on a typical working day, you can at least perform several batches of transfers. We call them, or migrations, or we call them batches, divided down to TLDs, per TLD, and typically per involved registrar. That means if you have, just as an example, you have a big corporation, and you have a portfolio at one of your registrars, and you would like to migrate it, and this can be done per TLD more or less, so on a daily basis. Okay, on this Tuesday, we are migrating these 4 TLDs. It's about whatever, 5,000, 10,000 domains, and done. It can be more if you have, for example, we have done this recently, internally actually, for Hexanet. We moved, I think it was close to 50,000 .au domains in 1 day. Well, this is not precisely, the domains have been moved in 1 day. The project was a little bit longer, of course, but this was in a very, very short time frame. Or last year, we moved more than 500,000 domains from .au actually as well, from one of our internal registrars. And of course, the transfer itself, it happens on 1 day. You have to have a bit of preparation and of course a little bit of wrapping up. But this can happen quite fast. It depends on the project.
Right, and
It's very
depends on then the recommendation that you've outlined and what I've agreed,
Exactly.
like my comfort level of pace.
Exactly. So again, if to pick up at the very beginning, if you're talking, so for example, there's this opposite example when you have a domainer, for example. 10,000 domains, one domain owner. You can transfer them easily as fast as you can, more or less. As fast as the APIs of the involved registrars and the involved registries are working, you can transfer them as fast as you can. This is one day. But then you have delicate portfolios coming from the corporate side, for example. You have, let's say, a few hundred domains, but they're extremely valuable. You have, let's say, tens of millions of DNS queries on these domains each day, so you cannot simply take them and run the risk of letting them go offline. So you are extremely cautious of moving just like a bunch of domains, literally a dozen of domains, and you need to do it very, very slowly. It always depends a little bit on the scenario, on the situation that we are in, of course, on the requirements of our customers. Most important is we need to have a common ground with our customer and say, okay, this is your requirement, and this is how we can fulfill it. This is our recommendation, how we would approach this. And this is actually a little bit the magic. I mean, I guess a typical follow-up question is, give us some more inside details. So this is actually where we would like to ask you, reach out for us. Because going too deep here, and this is what Marie already said in the beginning, we could talk on this now for a few hours. It sounds simple about migrations, but it's actually, if you're doing this since several years already, and we have a long-standing history in the registrar space that we can safely say we have. If you combine it, some of our employees are with us since 13, 15 years, and so this is a lot of stuff that we can talk about. We can talk about things of on the past. For example, GDPR kicked in 4 years ago, changing all transfers totally, all ICANN mandated TLDs, all the generics, for example. And you see, now I'm diving more and more deeper into the topic here. So, to come a little bit out of the tech stuff a bit.
Good, I'm gonna bring us back into.
Please catch me, bring me back on track, Marie.
I've got one more question for you, and then we'll cover a few things at the end for everyone. But I've agreed to move forward. We're kicking off the project. It's going to be 6 months long, my particular migration project.
This can be typical, yeah.
What does the communication experience look like for me? So I'm moving forward with you. Am I talking to the team at all in that 6 months? Am I getting updates? What does that look like?
Constantly, more or less, constantly. So this is like a regular exchange of information, of course. It's not only emails, by the way. I mean, we learned it in the recent past. Video calls is the standard today. Of course, you can use any other means that whatever you like. If you would like to open a Slack channel, for example, no problem. And but the most important thing is constant flow of information, and do this continuously throughout the entire project. There may be phases where it's a little bit more silent, but there may be also phases where you have basically one meeting after another. And this is the most important thing, keeping up this communication, making sure that we need to make sure that you are constantly informed about every single step that we are taking, about every single development that is happening during the migration. Of course, there may be things that come in between. Sometimes it's not avoidable. Sometimes it's new stuff that maybe comes into the project from your side as well. Can happen. And most important thing is constant communication. Mm-hmm. And maybe to get a bit further, when we're talking about communication, this also includes all domain owners. They need to also, this is where we provide recommendation on how to provide communication and information to the domain owners themselves as well, again, to minimize impact on this in this respect.
Yeah, and we'll help, I mean, Martin's covered this, but in regards to how to communicate to your customers what to say, we have, done that many, many times. We have a lot of pre-written white label content that can be used and customized and be a resource for you on that side. And then if you have to pause anything along the way on your side, if something's going on, our team will work very closely with your team. We will wrap up. If you have any questions, we would love to talk to you. Martin and I will be are in the back here by the entrance for a little bit. Also, we're at booth A04, and at 4 p.m. today and tomorrow, we're doing cocktail hour. So come by and have a glass of champagne with us, and let's talk migrations or any other questions you might have. We'd love to connect.
You're heartily invited. And also, please let us know if we missed anything that is on your mind. Yeah?
Any of the pain points.
It's not easy to cover everything in 20 minutes, but if you reach out to us, we will find a solution. Many thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.